I got home early from work to see my master bedroom being repainted. "We're renovating it before moving in," said my brother's wife. He nodded, and my parents laughed. I stood frozen in the doorway, my work bag slipping from my shoulder to the floor with a thud. This was my house. The house I had purchased with money I earned through years of sacrifice and determination. My sanctuary. My achievement. The next day, Mom called, her voice trembling. Why did the police come to us? The answer to that question would tear our family apart and rebuild it into something I never expected. 6 months ago, I finally achieved my dream of homeownership. At 34, after working as a physical therapist for over a decade, I signed the papers on a charming 3-bedroom craftsman with a yard big enough for the garden I always wanted. The moment the realtor handed me the keys, I cried. Not just because I owned a home, but because I had done it completely on my own. The path to that moment wasn't easy. After graduating with my doctorate in physical therapy, I was buried under $180,000 in student loans. My colleagues bought new cars and took lavish vacations, but I lived with roommates in a tiny apartment, drove my college car until it died, and worked weekends at a sports medicine clinic for extra income. Every spare dollar went toward my debt and then my down payment fund. When I found this house, I knew immediately it was the one. The wide front porch reminded me of my grandmother Grace's home in Virginia, where I'd spent summers as a child. She taught me to garden on a porch like this one, showing me how to nurture seedlings into blooming flowers. After she passed away when I was 12, I never found that sense of peace again until I stood on the porch of what would become my home. "You sure you want to take on a mortgage by yourself, Margot?" My dad had asked when I told my parents about my plans. "What if you meet someone? You might want to wait and buy a house together." That was typical of my parents, Carol and Robert Thompson. They meant well, but never quite understood my independence. They'd always viewed my accomplishments through the lens of what was missing rather than celebrating what was there. My younger brother, Jake, on the other hand, received endless praise for even his smallest achievements. When he struggled through community college, my parents threw him a massive graduation party. When he landed an entry-level marketing job, they bragged to everyone about their son, the executive. And when he met Amanda Winters 3 months ago and proposed after just 8 weeks of dating, my parents acted like he'd cured cancer. I met Amanda at their engagement party. She was beautiful in a polished country club way, perfectly highlighted blonde hair, expensive clothes, and a smile that never quite reached her eyes. She talked about her family's vacation home in the Hamptons and her time at an exclusive private college, making it clear she came from money. "Your brother is so lucky to have found me," she told me over champagne. "I've taught him so much about the finer things." I nodded politely, watching Jake orbit around her, like a planet around the Sunday. He'd always been easily influenced, eager to please whoever showed him attention. Growing up, I'd often had to steer him away from friends who took advantage of that quality. 2 weeks ago, I hosted a Sunday dinner at my house. Jake and Amanda arrived last, Amanda, immediately commenting on my quaint decorating choices. During dessert, they made their announcement. "We've been house hunting," Jake said, holding Amanda's hand. "But the market is crazy right now." "Daddy wanted to help with the down payment," Amanda added, "but even with his contribution, everything in the areas we want is just so expensive." My mother clucked sympathetically. "It's so hard for young couples nowadays." "We might have to rent for a while," Jake continued, "but even the nice apartments have waiting lists." I felt the weight of their expectant gazes. Before I could think it through, I heard myself saying, "You could stay in my guest bedroom for a couple weeks, just until you find something." Amanda's smile widened. "That would be perfect. We'd be so grateful, wouldn't we, Jake?" 2 days later, they moved in with 4 large suitcases and promises to be barely noticeable. I created space in my guest room closet and cleared a bathroom drawer for them. Amanda immediately filled both and asked where she could store her overflow. I should have seen the red flags then. But nothing prepared me for what I found when I came home early from work today. Not only was my master bedroom being painted a color I'd never choose, a bland grayish replacing my carefully selected sage green, but all my belongings had been removed. My clothes, my books, my personal items, all gone. As I stood gaping in the doorway, Amanda walked up behind me in designer yoga pants and a smug smile. "Surprise," she exclaimed. "We're renovating your master bedroom before moving in." Jake appeared from the hallway looking slightly uncomfortable, but smiling. We thought, since we'll be staying longer than expected, we should make it more our style. Your style, I finally found my voice. This is my bedroom. Where are my things? We moved them to the guest room, Amanda said casually. It makes more sense for us to have the master since there are two of us. Plus, we have more stuff. That's when my parents appeared from the kitchen, both beaming. Isn't this thoughtful? My mother gushed. Amanda has such a good eye for design. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You knew about this? Of course, my father replied. We came to help. Amanda called and said you'd agreed to switch rooms. I hadn't agreed to anything of the sort. There must be some mistake, I said slowly. I never said they could have my bedroom. This is my house. The smiles faded from everyone's faces except Amanda's, which took on a concerned expression that didn't reach her eyes. Oh, Margot, she said, her voice dripping with manufactured sympathy. I must have misunderstood. When you offered to let us stay, I thought you meant we could make ourselves at home. We can't possibly fit all our things in that tiny guest room. I think we need to talk about this, I said, struggling to keep my voice steady. Everyone living room now. We gathered in the living room, the smell of paint fumes following us. I perched on the edge of my armchair while Amanda and Jake took the couch. My parents settled on either side of them, creating a united front across from me. Let me be clear, I began. I offered the guest room for a couple of weeks. I did not offer my master bedroom, and I certainly did not give permission for anyone to move my things or paint my walls. Amanda's expression shifted to one of hurt confusion. Jake, didn't Margot say we could make ourselves comfortable? I'm sure she mentioned the master bedroom. Jake shifted uncomfortably. Well, you did say we could stay until we found a place. In the guest room, I insisted. For a couple of weeks. Margot, my mother interjected her tone. The same one she used when I was a stubborn child. They're just starting their life together. The master bedroom makes more sense for a couple. It's my house, I repeated, feeling like I was stating the obvious to people who couldn't grasp basic concepts. I paid for it. My name is on the deed and the mortgage. No one's disputing that, honey, my father said placatingly. But can't you be generous to your brother? Family helps family. I am being generous by offering my guest room, I countered. Moving me out of my own bedroom without permission isn't accepting generosity. It's taking advantage. Amanda's eyes welled with tears. I was just trying to make things nice. We're going to be here a little longer than we thought, and I wanted to create a space that works for us. She turned to Jake. I told you she'd be upset. I should have asked first. Jake put his arm around her. It's okay, babe. Margot's just surprised. She'll understand once she calms down. I don't need to calm down, I said, my frustration mounting. I need my bedroom back. The paint's already halfway done, my father pointed out. And all your things are moved. Why not give it a try for a few days? The guest room is perfectly nice. That's not the point, I insisted. The point is you're overreacting, Jake said, his tone hardening. Amanda was trying to do something nice, and you're making her feel terrible. We didn't raise you to be selfish. Margot, my mother added. I looked at their faces, my brother defensive, my parents disappointed, and Amanda's perfect tears not quite matching the calculating look in her eyes, and realized I wasn't going to win this battle tonight. Fine, I said finally. Just for a few days until we sort this out. I stood up. I'm going to check on my things. I walked to the guest room now, apparently my room, and surveyed the chaos. My clothes had been hastily hung in the closet or stuffed into drawers. Books were piled haphazardly on the floor. My bedding was thrown across the mattress unmade. I began to organize, trying to create some semblance of order in this unwanted transition. As I sorted through my possessions, a cold realization dawned on me: my grandmother's jewelry box was missing. The hand-carved walnut box had been on my dresser that morning, containing the few precious pieces she'd left me. I returned to the living room, where everyone was chatting as if nothing was wrong. Where's my jewelry box? The walnut one that was on my dresser. Their conversation halted. I didn't see any jewelry box, Amanda said quickly. It was there this morning. Wooden about this big, I indicated with my hands. It has a carved rose on the lid. We were careful with all your things, my mother assured me. Maybe it got packed in one of the boxes. What boxes? My things were just dumped into the guest room. There are a couple boxes in the garage, Jake offered. Stuff we thought you might not need right away. I headed for the garage without another word. After 20 minutes of searching through carelessly packed boxes, I found the jewelry box buried under winter sweaters. I opened it immediately, counting the pieces inside my grandmother's pearl necklace, her silver locket, her emerald earrings, and the sapphire ring was missing. Back in the living room, I noticed something I hadn't seen before. On Amanda's right hand was a familiar deep blue stone set in vintage silver. "That's my grandmother's ring," I said, pointing to her hand. Amanda looked down as if surprised to find it there. "Oh, is this yours?" "I found it on the bathroom counter this morning and thought it was so pretty. I was going to ask whose it was." "It was in my jewelry box. The box you claim you never saw." Margot, Jake interjected, "It was probably on the counter. Amanda wouldn't go through your things." "I would never," Amanda agreed, slipping the ring off and holding it out to me. "Here you go. No harm done." I took the ring, fighting back angry tears. The bathroom counter. The ring had been in the box that morning, when I put on my grandmother's locket before work. I distinctly remembered closing the lid and returning it to my dresser. "I think everyone should leave now," I said quietly. "I need some time alone." "Don't be dramatic," Jake sighed. "It's been a long day," my father said, standing. "We should all get some rest and talk again tomorrow." As they gathered their things to leave, my mother pulled me aside. "Try to be understanding, Margot. Jake's so happy with Amanda, and they really do need a bigger space than the guest room." I said nothing, simply showing them to the door. After they left, I returned to find Jake and Amanda making themselves comfortable in my living room, Amanda flipping through channels on my TV. "We were thinking of ordering pizza," Jake said casually. "Want to split it?" I stared at them in disbelief. "Did you not hear me say I wanted to be alone?" "Come on, Margs." Jake used my childhood nickname. "Don't be like that. We're trying to make the best of the situation. The situation where you've taken over my bedroom without permission and lied about taking my grandmother's ring. That situation." Amanda sighed dramatically. "I've already apologized about the ring. It was an honest mistake. And as for the bedroom, we can talk more about it tomorrow if you're still upset." "If I'm still upset," I repeated incredulously. "You know what, I'm tired." Amanda stood up. "I'm going to bed. Our room is probably dry enough now." "It's not your room," I said firmly. She smiled thinly. "Temporarily, then." "Good night, Margot." As they walked down the hallway to my bedroom, I stood in my living room feeling like a stranger in my own home. The guest room beckoned, but I couldn't bring myself to sleep there to accept this bizarre rearrangement. Instead, I grabbed a blanket and settled onto the couch, staring at the ceiling and wondering how I'd lost control of my house in a single day. 2 weeks passed, and Jake and Amanda showed no signs of moving out. What had begun as a temporary bedroom swap had evolved into a full-scale occupation of my home. Each day brought new violations of my space and boundaries. I woke one Saturday to find Amanda had rearranged my living room furniture, pushing my reading chair into a corner to make room for a massive sectional sofa that had been delivered while I was at work the day before. The delivery guys said the old arrangement was blocking the flow of energy, she explained when I questioned her, and that love seat you had was way too small for entertaining. "I don't entertain large groups," I pointed out, "and I wasn't planning to replace my furniture. You'll thank me when you see how much better it looks for the housewarming party." "What housewarming party?" Amanda flashed her perfect smile. "Just a little gathering next weekend. Don't worry, I'm handling everything." A little gathering turned out to be 20 of Amanda's friends, none of whom I had met, filling my house with noise and spilled drinks until 3 in the morning. I discovered strangers using my home gym equipment in the basement and lounging beside the small plunge pool in my backyard that I'd barely had time to enjoy myself. Family photos disappeared from walls, replaced by abstract prints Amanda had ordered. When I found the photos boxed in the garage, she dismissed my concerns. "Those personal photos make the space look cluttered. These prints open up the room, don't you think?" Jake remained largely silent during these changes, occasionally giving me apologetic glances, but never contradicting his wife. When I tried to talk to him privately, Amanda always seemed to appear redirecting the conversation. The final straw came when I received my monthly utility bills. The water bill had tripled, electricity had doubled, and there was a charge for premium cable channels I hadn't ordered. I waited until Sunday evening when I knew both Jake and Amanda would be home, and called them to the dining room table. I had prepared a folder with printed documents and my laptop open to a spreadsheet. "We need to talk about the living situation," I began. "It's been 2 weeks and we haven't discussed any expectations or contributions." Amanda looked bored, already scrolling through her phone, while Jake at least had the decency to make eye contact. "I've created a roommate agreement." I continued, sliding copies toward them. "It outlines shared spaces, quiet hours, guest policies, and financial contributions." "Financial contributions?" Amanda looked up sharply. "We're family, not tenants. Family or not, you're living here and using utilities. The water bill alone has tripled since you moved in." Jake picked up the agreement, scanning it. "Rent, Margot, we're trying to save for our own place. I'm not asking for market rate, just a reasonable contribution. $400 a month to cover the increased utilities and wear and tear." Amanda laughed. "That's ridiculous. We're doing you a favor by keeping you company in this big house." "I didn't ask for company," I replied evenly. "And the agreement also includes a move-out date 3 weeks from now. That gives you over a month total to find your own place." Jake's expression darkened. "You're kicking us out. After we've just gotten settled. I offered temporary housing, not permanent. You've taken over my bedroom, rearranged my furniture, thrown parties with strangers, and doubled my bills. It's time to establish some boundaries." Amanda stood up. "I need to make a call." She walked out of the room, phone in hand. Jake leaned forward once she was gone. "Margs, you know we're in a tough spot. The housing market is brutal right now." "I understand that, but this situation isn't working. You've completely taken over my home without any regard for my space or feelings." "That's not fair. We've been trying to make improvements." "Improvements I didn't ask for or want," I interrupted. "This is my house, Jake. Mine. I worked for years to afford it." He sighed. "Can we at least negotiate on the timeline? 3 weeks isn't much time to find a place." "The timeline is already generous, considering I initially offered 2 weeks. I pushed the agreement toward him again. "I need you both to sign this today." Before Jake could respond, the front door opened and my parents walked in, followed by Amanda. "What's this about you giving Jake and Amanda an eviction notice?" my mother demanded without preamble. I looked at Amanda, who had a self-satisfied expression. "It's a roommate agreement, not an eviction notice. And how did you even know about this?" "Amanda called us very upset," my father replied. "She said you're trying to charge them rent and force them out in 3 weeks. They've been here for 2 weeks already in my bedroom, which was only supposed to be temporary." My mother sat down beside Jake. "Margot, they're just getting started in life together. They need time to find the right place." "And I need my house back," I countered. "They've completely taken over, changing things without asking, having parties with people I don't know, running up my bills." "We've made improvements," Amanda protested. "The new paint, the furniture arrangement, they've all increased the value of the house." "I didn't ask for those changes. This is my home, not a renovation project." "You're being petty," Jake said, getting upset over little things like furniture and paint colors. "It's not about the things. It's about respect and boundaries." My voice rose despite my efforts to stay calm. "You moved me out of my own bedroom without permission. You wear my clothes without asking. You've had parties with strangers in my house. How is any of that petty to be upset about?" My parents exchanged glances. "Maybe we could compromise," my father suggested. "What if they stay in the master bedroom but contribute to utilities? And maybe cut back on the parties," my mother added, as if offering a significant concession. I looked at them incredulously. "Why are you all acting like this is a negotiation? It's my house." "Family supports each other, Margot," my mother said firmly. "We raised you better than this." The conversation continued in circles, with my parents consistently taking Jake and Amanda's side. By the end of the evening, nothing was resolved. The agreement remained unsigned, and I retreated to the guest room feeling defeated and alone. The next morning, I left early for work, avoiding Jake and Amanda. During my lunch break, I stopped at a coffee shop near the clinic where I worked. As I waited for my order, I overheard a familiar voice at a nearby table. "The house is amazing. You guys have to come over again soon," Amanda was saying to 2 women. I didn't recognize. "We've done so much to improve it since we moved in. The previous owner had terrible taste." I stepped closer, coffee forgotten. "So, it's officially yours now?" one of the women asked. "Practically," Amanda replied. "We're living there full-time and I've already started renovations. The master bath is next, I'm thinking marble and a rainfall shower." "What about that sister-in-law you mentioned? Isn't it technically her house?" Amanda waved dismissively. "She's staying with us temporarily while she figures out her next move. Between you and me, I don't think she was really ready for homeownership. The place was a mess before we took over." I stood, frozen coffee order being called in the background, as Amanda continued to describe her plans for her home, my home to her friends. The calculated deception, the casual dismissal of my existence as the actual owner left me breathless with anger and disbelief. In that moment, I realized this was no misunderstanding or temporary imposition. This was a systematic attempt to take what was mine, enabled by my brother's weakness and my parents' inexplicable blindness. And I was done being nice about it. The next morning, I left for work earlier than usual, but not to avoid Jake and Amanda. I had a plan, and it started with a visit to the post office. The clerk confirmed what I suspected. Jake and Amanda had filed a permanent change of address form, redirecting all their mail to my address. "When was this submitted?" I asked, examining the confirmation the clerk had printed for me. "About 3 weeks ago," she replied after checking the system. 3 weeks ago, before they had even moved in. This wasn't a spontaneous decision. They had planned to stay from the beginning. Over the next few days, I began paying closer attention to their mail, which was now arriving regularly at my house. Most were the usual bills and advertisements, but several caught my attention: late payment notices from credit card companies, collection agency letters, and a formal notice from a law firm representing Amanda's previous landlord. I shouldn't have opened them, but after what I'd overheard at the coffee shop, my moral compass regarding their privacy had shifted. What I discovered shocked me. Jake and Amanda were drowning in debt. Credit card statements revealed balances totaling over $40,000, with minimum payments barely being made. Designer clothes, expensive restaurants, weekend getaways, all charged without regard for their actual financial situation. The landlord's letter was even more revealing. They had been evicted from their last apartment for non-payment of rent for 3 consecutive months. The letter demanded payment of back rent and damages to the property. Most surprising was a formal letter from Amanda's parents' attorney dated 6 months ago, stating that all financial support had been terminated due to Amanda's failure to meet agreed-upon conditions, specifically completing her law school degree. Apparently, the wealthy background Amanda had flaunted was conditional on her academic success, which she had abandoned. Another letter revealed that Jake had been terminated from his marketing position a month before they moved in with me for chronic absenteeism and poor performance. He hadn't been between jobs, as he claimed. He had been fired and was collecting unemployment. Everything they had told me, their temporary housing needs, their ongoing house hunt, their financial stability, was a lie. That evening, I waited until Amanda left for her yoga class, which, based on credit card statements, was actually happy hour at an upscale bar, and confronted Jake alone. "I know about the eviction," I said without preamble as he lounged on my couch, "and the credit card debt, and your job." Jake's face drained of color. "You went through our mail. That's illegal." "So, is filing a false change of address form to establish residency in someone else's home," I countered. "You never planned to leave, did you?" He looked away, unable to meet my eyes. "It's not like that." "Then explain it to me, because from where I'm standing, you and Amanda have been systematically lying to take advantage of me." Jake ran his hands through his hair, a nervous habit from childhood. "We're in a tough spot, okay? Amanda's parents cut her off when she dropped out of law school. My job. I messed up. Too many late mornings after parties Amanda wanted to attend. The landlord was threatening eviction. So you decided to move in here permanently without telling me." "Not permanently," he insisted. "Just until we get back on our feet. Amanda has some business ideas that could really take off. Like what her credit card statements show, shopping and restaurants, not business investments. She's networking, building connections." I sat down across from him. "Jake, look at me." When he finally did, I continued, "I want to help you. I can help you make a budget, find a job, get financial counseling. But this situation with you and Amanda taking over my house has to end." For a moment, I saw a flicker of the little brother I had protected and guided throughout our childhood. His shoulders slumped, and he nodded slowly. "You're right. Things got out of hand. Amanda She has these expectations about lifestyle, and I got caught up trying to give her everything. You can't give what you don't have, I said gently. And taking from me isn't the answer. I know. I'll talk to her. We'll figure something out. Hope sparked inside me. Maybe we could salvage this situation after all. The front door slammed and Amanda strode in her yoga outfit immaculate despite her supposed workout. What's going on here? She asked, eyes narrowing at our serious expressions. Margot knows about everything, Jake said quietly. The eviction, the debt, my job. We need to be honest about our situation. Amanda's expression shifted from surprise to calculation in an instant. You went through our private mail. That's a federal offense, Margot. I could report you. I think we have bigger issues than mail right now, I replied. Like the fact that you two are planning to live here indefinitely without contributing or respecting that this is my home. Amanda's voice took on a wounded tone. Are you letting her attack us like this after everything we've done to improve this place? Amanda, she knows. There's no point denying it. Amanda's eyes flashed with anger before she switched tactics. Fine. We're struggling right now. Is that what you wanted to hear, Margot? That your perfect brother and his wife are having financial problems? Are you happy now? I'm not happy about any of this, I said. But I am offering to help. Real help, not enabling. I can help Jake find a new job. Connect you with financial counseling. We don't need your charity, Amanda snapped. And we're not leaving. We have tenant rights now. You're not tenants. You're guests who have overstayed their welcome. Check the law. Amanda smiled coldly. After 30 days in many states, even guests have rights. You'd have to formally evict us, which could take months. By then, who knows? Maybe we'll have more claim to this house than you do. Jake looked horrified. Amanda, what are you saying? I'm saying your sister doesn't get to dictate our lives just because she's jealous that you have someone and she doesn't. Before I could respond to this absurd accusation, my phone rang. It was my mother. Margot, wonderful news, she exclaimed without greeting. Amanda just texted us. We're having a family dinner at your place tomorrow to celebrate. Celebrate what? The baby, of course. Jake and Amanda are pregnant. Isn't it wonderful? We're finally going to be grandparents? I looked up at Amanda, who was watching me with a triumphant smile, one hand resting symbolically on her flat stomach. Mom, I need to call you back, I said numbly, ending the call. Pregnant, I asked Amanda. Since when? We were going to tell you tonight, she replied smoothly. Jake and I are expecting. Due in January. I turned to Jake, who looked as shocked as I felt. Did you know about this? We've been trying, he stammered clearly, hearing this news for the first time himself. This changes everything, doesn't it? Amanda continued. You wouldn't put your brother's family out on the street, would you, Margot? Not with a baby on the way. The family dinner the next night was excruciating. My parents arrived with baby gifts and champagne sparkling cider for Amanda, of course. They cooed over Amanda discussing nursery themes and baby names as if the child was already born. You'll need to stay put now, my mother told them. Moving during pregnancy is too stressful. We were thinking the same thing, Amanda agreed. Margot's house has plenty of room for a nursery. The guest room would be perfect. Where would Margot sleep? My father asked, apparently forgetting that the guest room was actually my bedroom. Oh, we've been talking about that, Amanda said smoothly. Margot, didn't you mention you might move to be closer to the clinic? Your commute is so long from here. I had said no such thing, but before I could object, she continued. And with the baby coming, it would be so helpful if you could help out Mom. Maybe Margot could stay with you for a while, just until we get settled with the little one. My mother's face lit up. That's a wonderful idea. We could convert the basement into a nice apartment for you, Margot. I stared at them in disbelief. You want me to move out of my own house so Amanda and Jake can turn it into their family home? Well, when you put it that way, it sounds so harsh, my mother chided. We're talking about family, helping family. Your brother is going to be a father. As the conversation continued around me, I excused myself to use the bathroom. Passing by the half-open door to my former bedroom, I overheard Amanda on the phone. It's working perfectly, she was saying quietly. The pregnancy announcement has everyone wrapped around my finger. No, I'm not actually pregnant. Don't be stupid. I'll fake a miscarriage in a few weeks after we're more established here. Her parents are practically begging her to let us stay now. Trust me, this house will be ours before the year is out. I backed away silently, my mind racing. The pregnancy was a lie, another manipulation in Amanda's scheme to take over my home. And worse, she was using the emotional power of a non-existent child to turn my family against me. That night, after everyone left, I sat in the guest room that had once been my sanctuary, surrounded by the remnants of my former life, and made a decision. This was no longer about family harmony or keeping the peace. This was war, and I needed reinforcements. The next morning, I called Diane, my closest friend and a real estate attorney. "They've been there how long?" Diane asked, her legal pad already half filled with notes. We were sitting in her downtown office, the city skyline visible through floor-to-ceiling windows. "Almost a month now," I replied, cradling the mug of coffee her assistant had brought me. "They moved in right after I offered the guest room for a couple of weeks." Diane pushed her glasses up her nose, a habit when she was thinking. "And they've established themselves in your master bedroom, receiving mail there, claiming it as their primary residence." "Yes." Jake filed a change of address form before they even moved in. "That's concerning," she tapped her pen against the legal pad. "In our state, after 30 days, they could potentially claim tenant rights even without a formal lease or rent payments." That's what Amanda said. I set my mug down harder than intended, sloshing coffee onto the glass table. "Sorry. Don't worry about it." Diane handed me a tissue. "What's most troubling is the level of calculation here. This doesn't sound like a casual misunderstanding. The mail forwarding, taking over your bedroom, the false pregnancy announcement. These are deliberate steps to establish themselves in your home. So what can I do? You have several options, none perfect. You could try reasoning with them one more time with me present as your legal representative. Sometimes the presence of an attorney makes the reality of the situation clear." I snorted. Amanda isn't easily intimidated. Then we moved to option 2. Formal eviction notice. I can prepare the paperwork today. In our state, even without a formal lease, you'd need to give them 30 days notice. That's another month of this nightmare. Unfortunately, yes. And that's assuming they leave willingly at the end of those 30 days. If they contest it, we'd have to go to court, which could take additional weeks or months. What's option 3? Cash for keys. Essentially, you offer them money to leave voluntarily. It sounds counterintuitive to pay someone who's already taking advantage of you, but it's often faster and cheaper than legal proceedings. I considered this. How much are we talking about? Enough to cover a security deposit and first month's rent somewhere else. Maybe $3,000 to $5,000. That feels like rewarding their behavior, I said, though I had to admit the prospect of a quick resolution was tempting. Think of it as paying for your peace of mind, Diane suggested. But let's try the formal notice first. I'll have it ready this afternoon. That evening, I returned home with the eviction notice in my bag, a strange mixture of dread and determination in my stomach. As I pulled into my driveway, I was surprised to see Jake outside loading boxes into his car. For a brief, hopeful moment, I thought they might be leaving voluntarily. Then I realized the boxes were mine, filled with books, photo albums, and keepsakes from the remaining storage areas of the house. "What are you doing?" I asked, approaching him. Jake jumped clearly, not expecting me. "Margot, you're home early. It's 6 o'clock, my usual time. Where are you taking my things?" "Just organizing." He wouldn't meet my eyes. Amanda thought the storage closet would work better as a pantry, so we're relocating some stuff. "To where exactly?" Before he could answer, Amanda emerged from the house with another box. "Oh, Margot, good, you're here. We need to talk about the storage situation. This house simply doesn't have enough pantry space." "Where are you taking my belongings?" I repeated. "Just to your parents' place for now," she said casually. "They have plenty of room in their garage." "You're moving my things out of my house without asking me." Amanda sighed as if dealing with a difficult child. "We're making improvements that benefit everyone. The closet will function much better as a pantry." "Put everything back," I said firmly. "Now." "Don't be dramatic," Amanda rolled her eyes. "It's just some old books and photo albums. It's not like you look at them every day." I stepped forward, took the box from her arms, and carried it back into the house. When I returned, Jake had at least had the decency to stop loading the car, though he still wouldn't look at me. I think it's time we formalized our living arrangement, I said, pulling the eviction notice from my bag. This is a 30-day notice to vacate the premises. Amanda took the document, scanned it, and laughed. Is this a joke? It's a legally binding notice prepared by my attorney. She ripped it in half, then in quarters, letting the pieces flutter to the ground. We're not going anywhere. Amanda Jake said quietly, maybe we should talk about this. She whirled on him. Talk about what your sister trying to put us on the street, after everything we've done to improve this dump. It's my house, I said, keeping my voice level. And I want you both to leave in 30 days. Or what? Amanda stepped closer, her perfectly made-up face inches from mine. You'll call the cops. Tell them your guests have overstayed their welcome. They'll tell you it's a civil matter. And by the time you get a court date, we'll have been here long enough to establish even more rights. This isn't going to end well for you, I warned. Actually, I think it is. Her smile was cold. Jake, call your parents. I think they should be here for this discussion. My parents arrived 20 minutes later, concern etched on their faces. What's this about an eviction notice? My father demanded as soon as they walked in. I explained my position that Jake and Amanda had taken advantage of my hospitality planned from the beginning to stay indefinitely, lied about their financial situation, and were now systematically taking over my house. And now she's threatening legal action against her own brother, Amanda added tearfully, while I'm pregnant with their grandchild. Margot, how could you? My mother asked, genuinely distressed. They're starting a family. She's not pregnant, I said flatly. I overheard her on the phone. It's another lie to manipulate you. Amanda gasped. How dare you? That's a horrible accusation. Would you take a pregnancy test right now? I challenged. I have one in the bathroom. I don't have to prove anything to you, she snapped. Margot, this has gone too far, my father said sternly. Accusing Amanda of lying about a pregnancy, moving their belongings without permission, serving eviction papers on your own brother. They moved my things first. And she is lying about the pregnancy. She admitted it on the phone. I was on the phone with my mother, Amanda countered smoothly, discussing pregnancy symptoms. Margot must have misheard. My parents looked at me with disappointment. I think you need some time to cool off, my mother suggested. Why don't you come stay with us for a few days? Give everyone some space. I'm not leaving my house, I insisted. They are. This isn't just about the house anymore, my father said. It's about your behavior. We raised you to support family, not threaten them with lawyers. The conversation devolved from there, with my parents firmly on Jake and Amanda's side, convinced I was being unreasonable and hostile. Eventually they left, urging me to think about what really matters and be the bigger person. After they departed, Jake approached me hesitantly. Margs, I don't want it to be like this. Then stand up to her, I replied. Tell the truth. He shook his head. It's not that simple. Actually, it is. You're choosing her lies over your sister. That is very simple. If you go through with this eviction, I'll never speak to you again, he warned, his voice hardening. If that's your choice, Jake, so be it. But I want you both out in 30 days. The next 2 weeks were tense. Amanda and Jake ignored the eviction notice, continuing to act as if they owned the place. They threw another party, invited their friends to use my pool, and ordered more furniture that arrived while I was at work. I began documenting everything, taking photos of the changes they made without permission, recording conversations when legally allowed, and keeping a detailed log of incidents. Diane advised me to avoid confrontation while we gathered evidence for what was clearly going to be a legal battle. One evening, I returned home to find a certified letter waiting for me. It was from my mortgage company, stating that my payment was past due and that I was at risk of default if payment wasn't received within 15 days. This made no sense. My mortgage payments were automatically withdrawn from my account each month. I immediately called the bank, only to discover that the auto payment had been canceled 2 months ago. Who canceled it? I asked, my stomach nodding with dread. The request came through our online portal, the customer service representative explained. Someone logged in with your credentials and terminated the automatic payments. I changed all my passwords that night, going through every financial account I had. What I discovered was chilling. Not only had my mortgage auto pay been canceled, but someone had changed the mailing address for most of my financial statements to my parents' house. The next morning, I drove to my parents' home, determined to find out if they were knowingly part of this scheme. They weren't home, but they had always kept a spare key in the fake rock by the back door. Some habits never change. In their home office, I found stacks of mail addressed to me, bank statements, credit card bills, and most disturbing of all, a job offer from a prestigious physical therapy clinic in Seattle, one I had interviewed with months ago, but never heard back from. The offer letter was dated 6 weeks earlier, with a response deadline that had passed 2 weeks ago. Beside my mail was a folder labeled House Documentation in my mother's neat handwriting. Inside were copies of what appeared to be legal documents transferring ownership of my house to Jake with what looked like my signature. The signature was a forgery, but a good one. Someone had clearly practiced copying my handwriting. Also in the folder were handwritten notes in a flowing script I recognized as Amanda's outlining a plan to secure permanent residence and transition ownership with a detailed timeline and tactics, including isolate from support system and establish legal residence. I photographed everything with shaking hands. This wasn't just opportunistic advantage-taking anymore. This was a calculated conspiracy to steal my home through fraud and forgery. And somehow my parents were involved. As I replaced the folder and locked up, my phone rang. It was my mother. "Margot, why are the police at our house asking about you?" "What do you mean the police are there?" I asked, heart racing, as I drove away from my parents' house evidence photos safely stored on my phone. "2 officers just showed up saying they need to speak with us about you," my mother replied, her voice tense. "What have you done, Margot?" I haven't done anything, I said, though. Guilt about entering their house without permission flickered through me. "What exactly did they say?" "Something about a complaint filed by Amanda. Destruction of property and harassment. They want to take a statement." Destruction of property, harassment. What was Amanda up to now? "Mom, listen to me carefully. Amanda is manipulating all of you. I found evidence in your office." "You were in our house," she interrupted, anger replacing concern. "Without permission? I needed to find my mail that's been redirected to your address without my knowledge." "Mom, there are forged documents in your office showing the house transferred to Jake's name. Did you know about this?" My mother was silent for a long moment. "We thought you had agreed to it," she finally said, her voice small. "Amanda said it was an early inheritance arrangement you'd worked out. And you believed that?" "Without talking to me directly. She had the papers with your signature. And you've been so hostile lately, we thought maybe this was your way of stepping back from the conflict." I gripped the steering wheel tighter. "That signature is a forgery. I would never give my house away, especially not to Amanda. I need to talk to your father about this." Her voice wavered. "The police are waiting. Tell them I'll come in voluntarily to discuss any accusations. But Mom, please don't sign anything else, or make any statements about the house until we talk." After hanging up, I called Diane, immediately explaining the situation in a rush of words. "Slow down," she said. "You found forged transfer documents at your parents' house." "Yes, with what looks like my signature, but I never signed anything. And now the police are at my parents' house because Amanda filed some kind of complaint against me." "This is escalating quickly," Diane said, her tone shifting to full professional mode. "Here's what you need to do. First, do not go to your house right now. If Amanda has filed a police report, she may be setting you up for a confrontation." "Where am I supposed to go?" "Come to my office. We need to file an emergency injunction against any property transfer and report the forgery to the police ourselves. And Margot, don't delete those photos you took, but also don't mention entering your parents' house without permission if you can avoid it." I headed straight to Diane's office, where she was waiting with another attorney, a stern-looking woman named Patricia, who specialized in fraud cases. "Based on what you've told us," Patricia said, after I'd shared the full story, "we're dealing with a coordinated effort to essentially steal your house through deception, forgery, and manipulation. It's unfortunately more common than you might think, especially among family members. So what do? We file police reports for mail fraud, identity theft, and forgery. We file for emergency injunctive relief to prevent any property transfer. And we gather more evidence," Patricia explained. "Have you been staying at the house this whole time?" "Yes, in the guest room. That used to be my bedroom." "And your belongings? Where are they now?" I thought about the boxes Jake had been loading into his car. Some are in the guest room, some were being moved to my parents' house without my permission, and I'm not sure about the rest. Diane and Patricia exchanged glances. I think you should stay somewhere else for a few days, Diane suggested, just until we get the legal protections in place. You think I should abandon my house to them? Temporarily, Patricia clarified. Right now, the situation is volatile. Amanda has already shown she's willing to involve the police with false accusations. If you're not there, it's harder for her to create confrontations that could be twisted against you. Reluctantly, I agreed to stay with Diane for a few days. We spent the rest of the afternoon filing reports and preparing legal documents. By evening, my head was spinning with terms like fraudulent conveyance and quiet title action. Get some rest, Diane advised as we left her office. Tomorrow we'll continue building the case. I spent an uncomfortable night on Diane's pull-out couch, checking my phone constantly for news from my parents, or alerts from the security system I'd installed at my house but rarely used. Around 2 in the morning, my phone finally rang my father. Dad, what's happening? Margot, his voice was uncharacteristically subdued. We need to talk. Your mother and I. We've been looking through our files. The papers Amanda gave us about the house. The signature doesn't match other documents we have with your real signature. I've been trying to tell you that I said relief washing over me. She forged it. I know that now. And I owe you an apology. We should have verified with you directly. Why didn't you? I couldn't keep the hurt from my voice. Did you really think I'd give away my house without even telling you myself? My father sighed heavily. Amanda can be very convincing. She had an explanation for everything, why you didn't want to discuss it directly, why it made financial sense. She said you were planning to move to Seattle for a new job. I applied for a job there months ago but never heard back. Apparently the offer letter was intercepted along with my other mail. We found it, he admitted. In a stack of mail, Amanda said you had asked her to manage while you were busy with work. Dad, she's been systematically cutting me off from opportunities and information while taking over my house. And Jake is either complicit or too blind to see it. I believe you now, he said quietly. Your mother and I have been talking. We didn't want to see it. Jake has always needed more support, more help, and Amanda seemed to make him so happy. At my expense? Yes. The admission seemed painful for him. We're going to make this right, Margot, whatever it takes. After a restless few hours of sleep, I met again with Diane and Patricia. We had just finished reviewing the injunction paperwork when my phone rang. The security system at my house was sending an alert about unusual activity. I opened the app to view the cameras I'd installed months ago but rarely checked. The footage showed moving trucks parked in my driveway and people carrying furniture out of my house. They're moving out, I said, hopefully, showing Diane the feed. She frowned. Those are your belongings. They're loading, not theirs. She was right. I watched in horror as movers carried my sofa, my dining table, even my grandmother's antique desk out to the trucks. We need to get over there now, I said, grabbing my purse. They're clearing out my house. We arrived 20 minutes later to find 3 moving trucks being loaded with my possessions. Amanda stood in the driveway, clipboard in hand, directing the movers. What the hell is going on? I demanded, storming up to her. She turned, not even attempting to hide her smug satisfaction. Oh, Margot, I didn't expect to see you today. Why are you removing my belongings from my house? Your belongings, I think you're confused. She held up a document. According to this, the house and everything in it belongs to Jake now. Your parents transferred it to him as an early inheritance. They signed the papers yesterday. That's impossible. I spoke to my father last night. He knows about the forgery. Amanda's smile didn't waver. People say all sorts of things when they're caught in the middle. But in the end, blood is thicker than water. They chose their son, as they always have. Diane stepped forward. I'm Diane Carter, Miss Thompson's attorney. Whatever document you're holding is fraudulent. We've already filed for an emergency injunction against any property transfer. Take it up with the Thompson family lawyers, Amanda replied dismissively. Now, if you'll excuse me, we have a move to complete. As if on cue, my parents' car pulled into the driveway, followed by Jake in his own vehicle. My heart sank at the sight of them, thinking they had indeed betrayed me again. But when they got out, their expressions were grim, determined. Stop the moving trucks, my father commanded, his voice carrying an authority I rarely heard. Now. Amanda's smile faltered. Robert Carroll, I wasn't expecting you until later. Clearly, my mother said coldly. Amanda, where is the paperwork we supposedly signed yesterday? I have copies inside, she replied, confidence wavering slightly. Jake has the originals for safekeeping. Jake stepped forward, looking unusually resolute. No, I don't. Amanda turned to him, surprise flickering across her face. What? I don't have any paperwork, Amanda. Because my parents never signed anything yesterday. We were with them all evening, remember? At the restaurant celebrating their anniversary. Amanda's composure cracked. Of course they signed it. They agreed to transfer the house to us. We did no such thing, my father stated firmly. And we've spent the morning with our own attorney documenting the fact that any signatures you might produce would be forgeries. Amanda's gaze darted between them, calculation visible in her eyes. This is just a misunderstanding. The paperwork must have gotten mixed up with... Stop. Jake interrupted, his voice stronger than I'd heard in months. Just stop, Amanda. It's over. She stared at him in disbelief. Jake, what are you doing? The right thing. Finally. He turned to me. Margot, I'm so sorry. I knew things had gone too far, but I was too weak to stand up to her. There's no excuse. You're choosing them over me. Your wife. Amanda's voice rose shrilly. After everything I've done for you. You mean like getting me fired with your constant demands for time off? Or maxing out credit cards for things we couldn't afford? Or lying about a pregnancy? Jake's voice was steady now. Yes, I'm choosing my family, my real family. Amanda's face contorted with rage. She turned to the movers. Keep loading, we have a schedule to keep. Actually, Diane interjected, holding up her phone. I've just called the police to report theft in progress. So unless you want to add a criminal charge to the fraud and forgery allegations, I suggest you tell these men to return everything to the house immediately. For the first time, uncertainty crossed Amanda's face. She glanced around, seeming to realize she was cornered. Without another word, she dropped the clipboard, walked to her car, and drove away, tires screeching on the pavement. The next few hours passed in a blur of police reports, movers, returning furniture, and family conversations that were painful but necessary. Jake admitted to knowing about some of Amanda's plans, but claimed he didn't realize the extent of her deception until recently. My parents acknowledged their role in enabling the situation through their favoritism and unwillingness to question Amanda's claims. By evening, most of my belongings were back in the house, though not in their original places. Jake had packed a bag and was preparing to stay with our parents. Amanda was still missing, though police were looking for her to serve her with the various legal documents we'd filed. As we stood in what had once again become my living room, Jake turned to me, eyes red-rimmed from an afternoon of difficult conversations. I don't expect you to forgive me, he said quietly, but I want you to know I'm going to make this right however long it takes. I looked at my younger brother, seeing both the weak-willed man who had betrayed me and the little boy I had always protected. It's going to be a long road, Jake. I know. I'll start by telling the police everything, the forgery, the mail tampering, all of it. My parents, who had been silently helping reorganize the furniture, stepped forward. We're going to make this right too, my mother said, tears in her eyes. We should have believed you from the beginning. As they left with Jake promising to return the next day to help with more cleanup, I stood alone in my home for the first time in weeks. It was damaged walls, painted colors. I hated furniture rearranged and the lingering feeling of violation, but it was mine again. My phone rang, displaying the police department's number. Miss Thompson. This is Officer Reyes. We've located Amanda Winters and served her with the court documents. While searching her vehicle, we found several pieces of mail addressed to you, along with what appears to be practice sheets of your signature. Would you be able to come to the station tomorrow to provide a statement? Absolutely, I replied, a sense of justice beginning to replace the anger and betrayal that had consumed me for weeks. As I hung up, I walked to my former bedroom now, my bedroom again, and began the process of reclaiming my space one small act at a time. 6 months later, I stood in my newly renovated master bedroom, admiring the soft sage-green walls that once again matched my vision. The morning sunlight filtered through gauzy curtains I had chosen, illuminating the space that was finally completely mine again. The path to this moment of peace had been difficult, and at times seemed impossible. The weeks following Amanda's departure had been filled with legal proceedings, family therapy sessions, and the slow, painful process of rebuilding trust. Amanda had not gone quietly. When faced with the evidence against her, including the forged documents and mail tampering, she had tried to paint herself as the victim, a young wife simply trying to secure a future for herself and Jake. But the methodical nature of her deception, documented in her own handwriting, made her claims fall apart under scrutiny. The district attorney had charged her with multiple counts of mail fraud, forgery, and attempted property theft. Rather than face a trial, she eventually accepted a plea deal that included restitution, community service, and probation. The last I heard, she had moved back to her hometown, her carefully constructed facade of wealth and success shattered. Jake's journey had been different. After moving out of my house, he had checked himself into therapy, confronting the pattern of dependency and weakness that had made him susceptible to Amanda's manipulation. He found a new job at a small marketing firm, rented a modest apartment, and began the slow process of rebuilding his finances and his relationship with me. Our weekly coffee meetings had evolved from tense, awkward encounters to something resembling the sibling relationship we'd had before Amanda. I wasn't ready to fully trust him yet, but I recognized the genuine effort he was making. My parents had perhaps the hardest reckoning of all. They had to confront their lifelong pattern of favoring Jake, of making excuses for his behavior while holding me to a higher standard. The family therapy sessions had been brutal at times, with long-buried resentments surfacing like air bubbles from deep water. We thought we were helping him, my father had admitted during one particularly emotional session. Jake always struggled more than you did, Margot. You were so capable, so independent. We didn't think you needed us the same way. Everyone needs support, I'd replied. Even capable people. Those conversations had led to real changes. My parents now made conscious efforts to recognize my achievements, to offer support without taking over, and most importantly, to respect my boundaries. They no longer had a key to my house, a small but significant symbol of our new relationship. The house itself had undergone a transformation as well. I had taken 3 weeks off work to restore it to my vision, removing every trace of Amanda's improvements. The greige walls were gone, replaced with the colors I had originally chosen. The massive sectional sofa had been donated, my comfortable reading chair returned to its place by the window. New locks, a comprehensive security system, and carefully selected legal protections ensured that no one could ever again claim rights to my property without my explicit consent. As I made my morning coffee in the kitchen, I had reclaimed my phone, chimed with a text from Diane, who had become a close friend through this ordeal. Don't forget housewarming party at 2. Need me to bring anything besides the wine? I smiled, texting back a quick response before heading to the garden to cut fresh flowers for the table. The re-housewarming party, as Diane had dubbed it, was her idea. A way to reclaim the space with people who truly cared about me. The guest list was small but meaningful: Diane and her husband. 2 colleagues from the physical therapy clinic who had supported me through the worst days. My next-door neighbor who had documented Amanda's parties as evidence. And yes, my parents and Jake, their presence a tentative step toward a healthier family dynamic. As I arranged sunflowers in a vase, my grandmother had given me one of the few precious items that had survived. Amanda's purge unscathed. I reflected on the lessons of the past 6 months. I had learned that ownership goes beyond legal documents and financial transactions. True ownership means establishing and maintaining boundaries, recognizing when those boundaries are being violated, and having the courage to defend what is rightfully yours, even against family. I had discovered that being kind doesn't mean being a doormat, that generosity shouldn't come at the expense of self-respect, and that sometimes the most loving thing you can do for someone is to stop enabling their worst behaviors. Most importantly, I had come to understand that family isn't just about blood relations. Family is built on mutual respect, honesty, and support. The people gathering in my home later today were my chosen family, including the blood relatives who had earned their way back into my inner circle through genuine remorse and changed behavior. The doorbell rang, interrupting my reflections. It was Diane, early as usual, arms laden with wine and flowers. "I know you said not to bring anything," she grinned, stepping inside. "But these roses reminded me of the ones you planted when you first moved in." "They're perfect," I said, taking the bouquet. "And actually, I could use your help setting up the patio." As we worked together arranging chairs and stringing lights for the evening portion of the gathering, Diane nudged me gently. So how does it feel, having your castle back fully and completely? I looked around at the home I had fought for, the sanctuary I had reclaimed. It feels like victory. Not just getting the house back, but getting myself back. I don't think I realized how much I was compromising who I am until I was forced to stand up for myself. You know what they say. Sometimes it takes losing something to understand its true value. I didn't lose it, though I corrected her. It was taken, and I took it back. She raised her water glass in a toast. To taking back what's yours, not just the house, but your power. Later, as my home filled with the genuine warmth of people who respected me and my boundaries, I watched my brother enter tentatively, a small gift in hand. It's a new lock, he explained when I opened it. For your garden shed. I noticed the old one was rusting when I helped replant the flower beds last week. It was a small gesture, but a meaningful one, acknowledging my ownership, contributing to my security rather than undermining it. My parents arrived next, carefully wiping their feet at the door and waiting to be invited in, rather than assuming the right to enter. Another small but significant change. As the afternoon turned to evening and conversations flowed easily under the patio lights, I found myself sitting beside my father on the porch swing. You've done a wonderful job with the place, he said, gesturing to the gardens illuminated by soft solar lights. It's truly your home now. It always was, I replied. But yes, it feels more mine than ever. He nodded, understanding the gentle correction. I'm proud of you, Margot. Not just for the house, but for how you handled everything. You stood your ground when it would have been easier to give in. I had a lot of help, I acknowledged, nodding toward Diane, who was laughing with my mother across the yard. True friends are priceless, he agreed. But the strength came from you. It always has. As my guests began to depart, each leaving with a small potted herb from my garden new life to nurture a symbol of growth and resilience, I felt a sense of closure settling over me like a comfortable blanket. The house was quiet again, but not empty. It was filled with the echoes of genuine laughter, of honest conversations, of connections based on respect rather than manipulation. This was what home should feel like: safe, authentic, and truly mine. Standing on my front porch, watching the last car drive away, I made a promise to myself. I would never again allow anyone to make me feel small in my own space. I would protect what I had worked for, not out of selfishness, but out of self-respect. And I would continue building a life in a home that reflected my values. Generosity balanced with boundaries, kindness coupled with strength. The journey hadn't been easy, and there would likely be challenges ahead as my family continued to navigate our new dynamics. But I had proven to myself and everyone else that I was capable of fighting for what mattered, of standing firm even when it would be easier to yield. Some might call it a small victory, just a house, just a bedroom, just material possessions. But I knew better. It was about dignity. It was about justice. It was about claiming the right to define my own life and protect what was precious to me. As I locked my front door, and moved through my quiet house, I felt not just ownership, but true belonging. This was my space, earned through hard work and defended with courage. No forged signature, no manipulative tears, no family pressure could ever take that away again. What's your experience with setting and maintaining boundaries with family members? Have you ever had to stand up for yourself against people who should have supported you? Share your stories in the comments below. If you found Margot's journey meaningful, please like this video and subscribe to hear more stories of everyday courage and resilience. And don't forget to share with someone who might need encouragement to stand up for themselves. Thank you for listening. And remember, protecting your peace isn't selfish, it's necessary.